go back, more a dozen years or more, was doing journalism and public relations, stuff like that. Had kind of seen the writing was on the wall for nobody was going to be printing so much stuff. Just cost too much. There was too much. The digital stuff was too easy to do and much more cost effective. So I started looking at how do I get myself into doing, some of the online stuff. So I started working on, basic website stuff, HTML and the other things like that. But also said, there's also still a need, obviously, to keep marketing yourself through more traditional means. So I couldn't let the other, print stuff, fade away. But so it was a fine balance to kind of keep up which way you're going to go. But in the end, websites and emails won out. That's kind of where everything's at these days.
So, the basic question is what did that transition look like? I take it probably didn't happen like overnight, or what was that decision process kind of like when you decided, I'm going to try to go out on my own?
There was time there where I felt like I had 3 jobs because I did have a full-time job. I was also, at the time, doing just little jobs once in a while on my own, and then also had started subcontracting for someone else who was already off on their own, kind of established. And so you had a lot of masters I did at that point. And it wasn't an easy decision to make and say, I'm going to cut that security net of that 40 hours a week. That was a hard process to come around to, but at some point I decided I just had enough. I was working, 6 o'clock till midnight every night and just not enjoying life. So I had to make
How long was that process? How long were you, in essence, you were freelancing on the side to kind of get your feet wet, kind of see if this was something that you could actually make a go at it? And so how long was that where you were kind of working the 3 jobs in one?
It was probably about an 8-month stretch there. And really 2 months of it at the end was just, it was just kind of this slow little bubbler, and then all of a sudden, boom, there was just too much work to do. And so I had to cut the tie with the 40-hour week and just say, that's it. I can't do this any longer. There was enough money involved. We were not completely financially stable, but
Are you ever? Is there? It's like having kids. If you keep waiting for the perfect time, you'll never have kids.
That's a good analogy, and things did fall into place. Obviously one of the biggest things to consider was, outside of just, it's all about money, of course. What isn't? But insurance is one of the big things. You can't, without having an employer pay half or more of your insurance. Insurance on your own is expensive. To go even healthcare.gov, the Obamacare related packages are not cheap. It's a lot of money. So eventually, we set out. We were paying out of pocket insurance for quite a while, and my wife did. Boom, got a full-time job, got insurance, and that's when we went. It was a big sigh of relief at that moment.
I imagine that's probably a big concern of everybody. A lot of people who are thinking about leaving their employer as how they're going to handle that insurance. And so, tell me about some of the hesitations you also had, besides insurance, about cutting that tie from the 40-hour-a-week job.
Well, I mentioned earlier security net, and it really is, because there's not just financial, there's social stability, where every day you're going to get up at a certain time, you're going to do this certain routine, and you're going to drive into work and see the same people, and they come and go, but generally over a 2-year period, you work with almost the same people. Mm-hmm. And then to go, wow, I'm not going to see those people. And you might keep in touch with them a little bit, and I see it, still keep in touch with a few people and see them once in a while, but you don't see them every day. So it's a big difference in your routine. And all of a sudden to go, I don't have any of that to go to.
Is that good or bad? Or both?
Both.
Pros and
I would
cons,
say.
yeah.
There's definitely pros and cons about it. I don't want to say that you lose some of the sociability of it, but you do a little bit. People like to interact with other people. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that makes people, and obviously there's introverts, extroverts, people who like different levels of interaction. But whether you like a lot of interaction or a little, you still like a little.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's really
kind of built into us that we're social, and to lose that, and not only that, to keep yourself motivated too. I mean, you've kind of got to make sure it's like, okay, I've got to get up, I've got to get rolling, and I suppose time being money helps with that.
Yep. And there's no boss. There's no one telling you what to do. You've got to make all those decisions yourself. So that was one of those factors too of, gosh, do I want to make all those decisions? Do I want to say I've got to spend X amount of time working on, calls, working on looking over the books, doing all those jobs, because you do when you go off on your own, unless you're all of a sudden fabulously successful and all of a sudden have a team working for you, you do every job.
What's something that you learned now that you wish you would have known going into it?
I would say I wish I would have known a little bit more about the bookkeeping aspect of things, and it's maybe something that some folks don't know about. You don't think about it, but all of a sudden you jump in and you go, it's a tangle of bills. It's no more harder than running your life at home, but it's another one. All of a sudden you've got to, look at your accounts receivables, which in a 9-to-5 job at a decent sized corporation, there's a whole department for that. Guess who that's a piece of me. This is a little bit of me accounts receivable. This little accounts payable.
Well, then you got to send that to the IRS. So I mean, that's the double nervous there too. It's like, well, not only have you created this business entity, but then you're responsible for not getting yourself in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, in the first year, I didn't realize it. You can't, when you have people who do subcontracting for you, and they aren't employees, you give them a 1099. Well, you can't just electronically send it to the IRS. It needs to be. They wanted a printed one.
All right.
It was too expensive for me to have the accountant do it. So I said, fine, I'll do it. Oh, wait, I don't have a typewriter anymore. I got rid of my typewriter years ago. So I bought a typewriter, an electronic one, and sat and typed out 3 1099s the first year, because I was like, well, I'm going to spend that much to have the accountant do it, or am I going to do it myself? And I did it myself the first 2 years, and subsequently had them do it.
So it's professional growth just because you're forced to do it, and you're doing these different things that you, like you said, you didn't think of, but
right.
Now you know. This is a resource for people who are interested in it. But what are some other resources? Would you recommend getting a lawyer to help with the paperwork, or is there any other resource advice there that you would recommend?
I think there's 3 big things. Obviously, yes, you gotta get a lawyer involved at some point.
Just easier. Otherwise, you're doing a lot of reading on Google.
Yes.
And you don't know if you're right.
And you don't know if you're right, and you're also you look at that and go, okay, I could spend this much and do it all myself, or I could spend this much, and the difference really isn't that much.
And the risk is taken over here.
Yes, and the hours that you would put into it, your time is better spent doing your job, searching out new clients, or doing work for billable hours for someone else. Tax people, accountants, you gotta have one. Again, that's just something you don't want to take that whole burden on yourself. The other ones is obviously networking now, and that can be not just belonging to like a small business association. I'm a member of the Midtown Business Association. They have networking events. Also, just networking with other people who run small businesses or have started up. They don't necessarily have to be in the same field you are, because a business is a business is a business. It doesn't really matter if it's someone who just started a laundromat and you started digital marketing. You have almost the same problems.
Yeah.
The problems you have are universal.
Well, thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Brad.
All right. And thank you.